Hey everyone, we are live. I forgot to put my earphones in. I'm gonna put those in now. I hope everybody's having a great start to their week. I was just thinking about how grateful I am. This little talk show thing I've been doing, it's so much fun, and it's really been for me something I wanted to do for a long, long time. If you read my blog this week, I talked a little bit about it, but I've had over here, look at this beautiful podcast mic. I've had it for 2 years, and it's been sitting on a shelf, and I look at it and I think, oh, one day I'll use it. One day I'll start a podcast. One day I'll talk to interesting women and, give people something really special to listen to. And I just never got around to it. And since we've been quarantined, it all came together. And I'm so grateful to everyone because you guys are watching and you're tuning in, and that's amazing. But the other thing is I'm getting all these positive votes of encouragement and keep going and keep doing it. And it's really, it's working, and it's exciting because it's such a departure from what I normally do, which is design and make jewelry. And it's just a different way to be creative. And I just want to thank you guys so much for reaching out and tuning in and all of that stuff. It's fantastic. So today I have a very special guest coming on the show. Her name is Susan Bookey Bassett, and excuse me, but I'm going to read off of a piece of paper that I've strategically placed to my right here in very, very large font so I can read it because I don't want to wear my glasses while I'm live. Sue is a nurse educator and a researcher. She's an assistant professor at Ryerson University's Daphne Cockwell School of Nursing. She teaches in the undergraduate, graduate, and post-diploma programs. Sue is also a board member with the Registered Nurses Foundation of Ontario and is a founding donor of the Nurse Innovator Award. So I'm really, really excited to have Sue come on. It's going to be a great conversation, lots of questions for her. And I'm also excited to let her share her story with you about who she is and her nursing background and how she got started. So without further ado, I'm going to bring her on and let's get to know Susan Bookey Bassett.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Sue. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Good. I'm great. I love your pink.
Yeah, thanks.
You look so pretty. We have Glam Jewels colors on. I've got the blue and you've got the pink. We're coordinated.
It's a little bit brighter for summer now that our warm weather's here.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. It was like a wall of heat coming out of the door this morning. I don't know about you. I get out in the mornings. I typically just go out and do like a 1 hour good walk just to be in nature. And I think it was out about 8 o'clock this morning, and it was a wall of heat already at that time.
I didn't go. I usually get out during the day, but it could be a little bit later in the day when I go out. I'm missing my gym at this point in time, so I'm not going to my normal classes. But luckily, some of our instructors are doing some online classes, and I'm doing those and some walks, some biking. Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm excited to get back into the biking too, and I was listening to a podcast, and it was specifically about women, like women's health over 50. I know you and I are both in our 30s, but
aren't we?
Yeah, aren't we? And but anyway, they were just talking about some machine that measures your body fat, right? But but this machine apparently can tell you specifically where you're storing fat, like if it's around the organs or whatever. But the woman, it was a dietitian who was being interviewed, and she said, you know, what's more concerning for women over 50 is that the strength in the legs really starts to go, and that we should all be doing squats like every single day. That's the best thing that we could possibly do for ourselves. And that's something I have not done since, when did the gym close, Sue? It would have been March.
Yeah.
I have not, yeah. I think I've done maybe 3 squats, so I got to get back into it.
Yeah.
It's time to squat.
Yeah, we need to get our squats in every day for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm so excited to have you on today, Sue. And I'm trying to remember now who connected us. Was it Sam? Or was it Kim? Kim Bertrand?
Well, through Sam and Kim, I would say, and because Kim. I'm, in addition to being a nurse, I'm part of their Neora brand partner team.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So for those who are not familiar with Neora, it's a anti-aging skincare and wellness line of products, and that's my little side business in addition to all my nursing work that I do.
Gosh, that's amazing. I know I was telling people, I introduced you and I said, excuse me, I have to read from a piece of paper because you have you've done it all, Sue. It's amazing.
A lot of different things. And that's what's a great thing about nursing is you can have a very diverse career. And a lot of people think that nurses are only people who work in hospitals, but that's not true. Nurses work in all kinds of sectors across many different types of businesses and do all kinds of different work. So I've been fortunate to have a lot of variety in the work that I've done, from, you know, being a bedside nurse to now being a nurse researcher and an academic. So kind of gone through a lot of different areas in my practice.
Yeah, you've seen a lot. So, Sue, can you tell us a little bit about the Registered Nurses Foundation of Ontario? And also, I'd love for you to share specifically your passion behind becoming a board member, because that's a great story. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm imagining a lot of people who are listening to this call right now might not have ever heard of the Registered Nurses Foundation of Ontario. And we call it RNFU for short. So RNFU is an organization that was established in 1972. And the purpose was really to begin to develop an awards program in terms of scholarships to support nursing education and research. And so in the past 30 years, I'm going to read a little bit of this, over $2 million have been awarded to deserving nurses and other healthcare professionals across Ontario. At this point in time, it's the major source of funding for nurses who want to go back to school. So nurses that are either in RPN programs, so registered practical nurses, or registered nurse baccalaureate programs, or graduate nurse programs, or PhD nursing programs. This year, 2020, we provided 64 awards and scholarships worth over $80,000 in awards to our applicants. And it's a very competitive application process as well. And so we're always looking for more funds to be able to give out, because in the last 20 years, the research monies that were previously awarded to nurses or previously available for nurses to apply have really dried up. And so now, if we want to compete or apply for research funds, it's a very competitive process. We're competing with researchers from every discipline across health professions. So it's a much more competitive process than in the past. And then there's pros and cons to that as well. But the overall mission of, or the vision of RNFU is really to be recognized as the leading provider of nursing awards and scholarships in Ontario. And with that, the purpose being really to enhance and advance nursing practice and contribute to the health of individuals and communities across Ontario. And so, as I said earlier, we support, funding to nurses that are pursuing higher education at different levels.
Wow. That's great. And so, Sue, you are also a recipient, correct?
Yes. My background, I've done initially I did my undergraduate degree from the University of Toronto, and then I did a master's degree at Brock University, and I did my PhD recently at McMaster University. And while I was doing my PhD, if you are doing your PhD full time, you're really only allowed to work 10 hours a week. And so that doesn't give you a lot of money to live the rest of your life. And if you're a mature student like me with a family, it doesn't give you a lot of money to pay the bills. And so I was grateful to have the opportunity to apply for funds through RNFU. And during the time I was doing my PhD, I think I was fortunate enough to receive 2 or 3 scholarships, which most of the scholarships that we give out are somewhere between $1,000 and $3,000. And that really helps when you're, paying tuition and trying to limit the amount of work that you do. So
right.
That was really important to me in terms of being able to acquire that funding and to support my studies and my research program. And then as a result of that, I felt that at the end of my PhD, so when I was done, I really wanted to be able to give back to RNFU. And so a year ago, I reached out to see if they were looking for any new board members, and fortunately they were, and they said, yes, come on board. So I came on board in, I think, January 2019 as a board member.
That's fantastic. So in a year, Sue, typically how many scholarships? Now, when you give the scholarship, do you call it an award? Is that what it's called? Is that the term?
Some of the awards are called, the title of the actual award is called a scholarship. And some of them actually have in the title of the scholarship, the word award. And so that's why we call them awards and scholarships.
Oh, okay.
And some of them are not scholarships. Some of them are actually research grants. So there's a little bit of a different process for applying for those funds, depending on which you're applying for. So when people apply for these awards, there are different categories. So people can apply depending on specialty of nursing. So for example, if you are doing some studies related to diabetes, there's an award that's called the Diabetes Nurse Educator Intergroup Award. Hope I got that right. And and it's for nurses who are doing studies related to diabetes, they would be good candidates to apply for that. So some based on specialties of areas of practice, some are provided by donor and named in the name of the donor, et cetera.
Okay, perfect. And you're also, I just found out when you emailed me that you are a founding donor of the Nurse Innovator Award. So that is something separate again? Or is it also affiliated with RNFU?
So it is I would say a new branch of RNFU as of last year, 2019. A number of our founding donors set up a new program to support nursing innovation. So it's a separate category that nurses can apply for. And last year we gave out 2 awards. I'm just going to give a little description of who they were and what the awards were about, because again, a lot of people may not be familiar with what is nursing innovation. So first I'll start with saying that nurses are key to innovation in healthcare because they're at the front line. They're at the bedside, they're working with patients. This has been highlighted tremendously through the COVID-19 experience of the role that nurses play. And perhaps it's been highlighted more now than ever, but nurses have always been there at the bedside, and they've always come up with great ideas, but they often don't have a way to promote those ideas. So our last year's winners, their names, one is Christina Facey Crowther, and she is a staff nurse at Mount Sinai Hospital in Toronto. And her innovation is to produce podcasts for nurses. It's called At the Bedside, and it's a digital project or a product hosted on open website, and it's available on all major podcast players. And really why she wanted to do this was because she noted that there's a number of other high quality platforms, but there weren't a lot that were just specific to nurses. And so she's gone on to develop a number of those podcasts now that anybody can download if they want to listen to them. And it talks about her experiences and some of the innovations that she's thinking about or sees in her work. So again, her podcast is called At the Bedside.
That's great, Sue. I just wrote it down. I'm going to share that because, we all have friends who are nurses. My next door neighbor is a nurse. And I just wanted to chime in with a personal story as you're talking about the nurses. Until you have a loved one who is ill and you're at the hospital on a daily basis, you don't really have that connection or know, right? And 8 years ago, my dad was at the old Oakville Hospital, the falling apart. You remember that hospital? And he had cancer, and he was on his last couple of months there, and he died in that hospital. But during that time, the nurses they had so much information for us. They were so supportive with our family. They greeted us when we came in. They wanted to know if we had any questions, whatever information they could give. They were so forthcoming. And I guess, this is a total misconception by me, but I never realized how they're just like doctors. I mean, I felt oftentimes they knew more than the doctor knew. And they just made my dad feel so at home there, even though it was this crazy time. I remember having a conversation with him saying, Dad, we got to get you home. Like, we want you to pass away at home. And he said, no, I'm fine here. These women are taking care of me. I don't want this burden to be put on your mom. And it was wonderful. It was just like this thing that was so hard for us to go through, where we dreaded, this whole event. My memories of it are wonderful. So yeah, all for the nurses. And I'm happy about this podcast because that's a great support system for anyone in healthcare, right?
And nurses, there's a saying that nurses are there when people are born, and they're also there when people pass away. And so, yes. and in between, right? All the way in between there as well. In as I said earlier, many facets, many capabilities, and many sectors where nurses work. Mm-hmm. The other winner from our last year's NIA competition, the innovator, her name was Christine Murphy, and she's a nurse practitioner and a researcher at the Ottawa Hospital. And her innovation is a nurse-applied ultrasound wound debridement clinic. That's an alternative to physician operating room debridement of lower extremity vascular wounds. So what this means is that her innovation can allow nurses that have the training in wound debridement to do it as an outpatient service versus having to go into a hospital, have an OR, take up operating room time plus surgeon and OR nurse time, which is more costly than having somebody come to an outpatient clinic. So not only is it an innovation in terms of nursing practice, but also in terms of potential cost savings for the healthcare system. So those are our two winners from last year. And if people want to read more about them or see their video clips, they're on the RNFU website. And we're currently in the application phase for the Nurse Innovator Awards for 2020. So we've received some applications so far, and our closing deadline for applications for this year is June 12th.
Okay, so as the nurse, they would apply. They're not nominated by other people. They apply directly.
Yeah, it's
their innovation.
Pretty extensive application process where people have to, talk about their innovation, what it means to practice, what is it contributing, and then it goes through a review process through a judging or a panel review in terms of, it gets scored, and then the applicants for this year will be rated, and then there'll be awards given out later this year. So we're just in that phase of trying to get through that application, make sure people who want to apply are getting their applications in by June 12th this year.
Okay. Oh, that's wonderful. Wow. Sue, I was going to ask you as well, with the current pandemic and everything, what sort of the buzz happening in your world, because I'm sure you're also torn where there are so many big health issues that need to be tended to, and it seems like this is so much at the forefront now where it's perhaps taking away from other things that are urgent. I mean, I've heard people say, the hospitals are empty right now. Like, is that a concern that people aren't coming forward to get the health care that they need because they're so afraid of getting the coronavirus or COVID-19, I should call it?
Yes, I think it's a combination of a couple of things. One being, first of all, the shutdown of everything and people not being able to access normal services. So things like elective surgeries being put on hold. So when surgeries are canceled, that automatically decreases the number of patients in any hospital, right? But I think hospitals want to get a sense of, how many people are coming through our doors that are going to be critically ill that we need to, make sure we have the capacity to serve in our ICUs. So when patients are really sick, critically ill, and need to have that extra support, that requires extra nursing and physicians that are skilled in ICU care, and not everybody has that training, right? So many organizations have sort of upskilled some of their staff from other areas of hospitals in preparation to care for an influx of patients with COVID, either to a regular ward, if you like, within a hospital, or to an ICU, depending on the severity of their illness. But yes, I've also heard other services have been halted for a while, and I've heard the same as you that, some patients are afraid to go to hospital. Some are now starting to open up again this week in terms of some of their ambulatory services and allowing patients to come back. And I think I've heard also that surgeons will be starting to look at how they're going to begin to do some elective surgeries again. But I'm not really in the OR setting, so I can't speak to that anymore. At this point, I'm in an academic setting, but how that's impacted me is how we train the healthcare professionals of the future, right? How do we train healthcare professionals who need hands-on experience with patients? And I don't mean just nurses. There's physicians, nurses, occupational therapists, physiotherapists, pharmacists, social workers, everybody. That's kind of, we're all trying to figure out how are we going to train our students that are in current programs, but also, those that are in hospitals now and placements to gain those skills they need to obtain in order to be a part of the workforce.
For sure. Yeah. Gosh. And the other thing that's amazing now is how, we're having phone conversations with our doctors instead of going in. Like, there's this whole thing. Even I wanted to see a skin specialist just to I have a couple of moles on my back, so I like to get them checked, once a year. And they asked me to please send photographs of my back so they could look at it and see if there was anything, that I should come in for or whatever. So, and just in doing that, I would imagine that in some cases, this is saving a lot of time as well. Do you think some of these practices will continue after COVID, where doctors will really look at, like, does this person need to come in, or can I work with them over the phone? And then allow more room for the really urgent stuff.
Yeah. I think yes. I think I've seen some evidence now that speaks to that. Particularly, I was looking at a report this morning from the UK. So in other countries, they've been doing virtual medicine in many different ways more so than what we do here in Canada.
Okay.
In fact, we're kind of a lagger in that area.
Is that right?
But COVID kind of prompted us to do this in new ways, right? And so I've seen both. I've seen a lot of information that patients overall are quite satisfied. For the majority are, and there's a lot of them that don't want to go back to the old ways. And I'm guessing some healthcare professionals will say the same thing. I can't I haven't seen specific evidence related to the health professional side of the story, but from patient perspectives, I think it's definitely been a positive for many types of services. And I think we need to think differently about how we provide services to be more efficient. And so, as you said earlier, like maybe some of these cases can be managed virtually. You know, if you're working in an office and you can go on a call like this for a couple of minutes, 5-10 minutes, to have a conversation with your physician or other primary care practitioner, and resolve your issue and not have to leave your work, go to wherever that office is, and come back to work, you know, people will appreciate that too. So
yeah, it's really amazing, isn't it, Sue? Like, even, you know, just on a very broad spectrum, how I think the world is really going to change that way, where we're going to see like all of these things we did to, you know, that expended all this energy and back and forth and driving and rush. And we're really looking now at, do we need to be this crazy? Like, do we need to be running around?
I'm
like,
not missing the commuting at all, really. I mean, I'm not missing my GO train commute to Toronto every day, that's for sure.
Yeah. My husband and I were talking this morning about the COVID weight, right? Everybody's like putting on the pounds. And I was thinking about it this morning, and I thought, you know, I've gained a few pounds, but I'm sure it's also because I don't have that adrenaline rush I used to have, where I'd go, okay, I got to get this done. Then I got to drive here. I got to pick this up. I got to, you know, I'm not doing that anymore. Even with my grocery shopping, it's like, I'm going to go once a week. If I forgot something, it's just going to have to wait, because I don't want to.
Uh-oh, a little bit of
to do that.
Frozen.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was just saying, with going to the grocery store, right? Like, we don't need to go every day. Once a week, I get my things done. And yeah, I feel that I am more efficient now, but yeah, it's great. So Sue, let's tell the people, actually, before we tell the people why we got to be friends, I'm just going to, look here. We have a couple of comments. Okay. If anybody has any questions for Sue, feel free to put it into the comments, and I will ask Sue any questions. But so the other thing we wanted to chat about was, Sue reached out to me because we had these mutual friends, and this was last year, right, Sue? I think it was December.
Or yeah, maybe in the fall.
Yeah, in the fall. And you had said to me, you know, we want to raise money for nursing scholarships. Could you work with us to design a bracelet? And 2020 is the year of the nurse, correct?
That's
so
right, yeah.
We needed to find a 2020 charm to really show that. And the colors for RNFU are purple and blue. So I sourced out some lovely purple and blue beads. And then came the COVID hit, and my head went to a bad place, Sue. I have to tell you, I was thinking, like, who's going to want a bracelet with a 2020 on it? Oh my gosh, this is the worst year. Oh, you know, and this is just not going to happen now. And, you know, Sue and I will look at something in the future, but it probably won't. And then you came back around and said, Monica, it's time. We need to do this. And it was great because you had the right attitude about it. This is really a year to celebrate the frontline workers, like the people in healthcare. We want to recognize them, and we want to support them, and we want to raise lots of money for scholarships so that we get, you know, even more wonderful people out there working with them, our most vulnerable. So, Sue, I think you might be modeling that bracelet.
I am. Yeah. So we had.
There it is.
This is the. It's probably back. I mean, it looks backwards.
Actually, no, it's not backwards. It's good. It's good. Yeah. It's like, how do we move our? Yeah.
So perfect. So how this came about is last year. Kim Bertrand had organized a fundraiser. I think it was for Halton, one of the Halton Women's Shelter.
Yes,
shoebox.
that's right. Shoebox project.
Yeah. And as I said before, I had met Kim through our Neora group, and I loved that bracelet, and I bought one to support that charity. And then I thought, I wonder if we could do something like that for RN Foo. So I'm also the chair of the fund development and marketing committee as part of RN Foo, and I proposed the idea to the committee, and they thought it was a good idea to try something. And then we were a little slower than we thought getting it going, but maybe in the long run it was better, because 2 weeks ago was Nursing Week, which is an internationally celebrated week around the world. And we ended up launching this promo right before Nursing Week. And so far we've had some good response to people purchasing these bracelets, either for themselves or for colleagues. I think a couple of chief nursing officers in Ontario have bought a large quantity to give out to some of their staff to recognize them and their contributions. And we want to, reach a little further and wider and see if we can promote this not only to nurses, because it's not specific. I mean, it's for RN Foo, but the bracelet could be, anybody in healthcare really could be recognized from a purchase of one of these bracelets.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it, Sue. I hope, my dream is that we'll see these people out there wearing the bracelets, and when the real world is back and they'll be at a restaurant and they'll have their bracelet on, and someone will just go up and say, "Thank you so much." It's a superhero kind of a thing. They can't wear a cape everywhere they go, but they can wear the bracelets.
And I think for right now, I mean, we've seen the horrendous crisis in long-term care, and I would just put a plug in for the personal support workers who provide the majority of the care to anybody that's in long-term care. Yes, nurses, RPNs, and RNs are there, but PSWs do a lot of the hands-on care. And so I think our long-term care workers deserve a huge recognition during this time. It's just very, very unfortunate in terms of what we've seen in long-term care homes, and the fact that much of the the realities of what's gone on in long-term care is coming through now because of COVID. However, nurses and other healthcare professionals have been advocating for more resources to long-term care for many, many years, and we've always, the money often goes to acute care, and some of the other sectors don't get the same amount of recognition. So sadly, it's taken this crisis to bring that to the forefront.
Sorry, Sue, we had a freeze up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's true. Like, from this crisis, it's really shone a light on what's happening, in long-term care. It's very, very sad. So definitely money, and I think a lot of money needs to be put into that, because, in our generation, the baby boomers that's our biggest population, right? We need to take care of these people. Yeah.
Large proportion, increasing proportion of the overall population is over age 65. So the healthcare needs of people as they age tend to increase. But I don't mean to say that because everybody over 65 is sick. That's absolutely not true. There's lots of people that are over 65 and over 80 that are fine. But it's the people that end up with multiple chronic conditions that are often the ones that suffer the most as they age.
That's right. And they took good care of us, so we need to take care of them. Yeah. Oh, that's great. So as we work together on this bracelet, we forgot about one part of this, which is big, the men.
Yes.
So this week, I will be creating the men's bracelet, and that'll be your next launch. And I'll be also launching it to my Glam Jewels customers. So I'll be doing that through social media. I'll be sending out an email about it. And that should be all set to go Friday, Sue. So I'm excited about that. And then I'll be directing them over to you, and then they can make a choice. And yeah, and I think this bracelet will be, you know, for men or unisex, like just a different style. If, you know, women are looking for something a little more casual, then they can also order that one. So yeah.
And thank you for doing that, because we, you know, there are a lot of men in nursing that are nurses.
Yeah.
And I think we, you know, we had a little bit of a blind eye at the beginning, and I'll take credit for that, but I shouldn't. I mean, I should totally know. There's lots of men in nursing.
I should have known too. It's just we got distracted by the sparkles.
Yeah, I think so. But then, yeah, and then a couple of people, you know, made a comment about it and said, "Oh, what about the men? And can we get something else?" So, absolutely. So we're thinking about that design now, and we'll be looking forward to those designs and something else to promote, and see what happens in terms of this initiative. So, but yeah, it's great.
It's going to be wonderful. It's going to be a big success.
Great to partner with you on this.
I enjoy it so much too, and I love when we have our calls, when, you know, with you and me and Heather, and we do a little brainstorming over Zoom. We get a lot accomplished on those. So yeah, it's nice. It's funny. The last time I sent you an email about everything, I thought, oh my God, this is so much fun. I feel like I'm part of a team here. It's really great. So it's not just me in my studio. Yeah, it's wonderful. So Sue, I'm just checking. I'm always on and off with my glasses. I'm just checking on the time here. I would love to invite you to come over to do a little Instagram after party after we close off our chat here, because we have a lot of people who watch on Instagram, and it's a little more of a casual thing, but I would love that if you would join me over there. And one more question I do have for you. Was this what you always wanted to do when you were a kid? Like, were you a kid that said, I want to be a doctor or a nurse one day, or I want to teach? Like, what was your dream growing up?
I would say I've always had a part of me that is a teacher. And when I was a kid, I always played school with my dolls and my animals a lot. My mom was a nurse. And then when I went to nursing at U of T, I realized that there's a lot of nursing. I grew to understand that nursing wasn't just about tasks, right? Nursing's about thinking independently. It's its own profession, and it's about all kinds of different things in terms of helping people throughout their lives, in terms of health promotion, and treatments for disease, etc. So I always had in my mind that I would have a role where I was teaching, and my beginning of my career was with obstetrics, with moms and babies, and I really enjoyed teaching parents about their babies. And then I worked in neonatal intensive care, and I, you know, did a lot of education with parents, learning about their little preemies. And then I moved from being a staff nurse into education roles, where I was responsible for ongoing education for nurses working in obstetrical areas. And then I started teaching part-time at some of the different schools. And then when I did my master's, it was around career development for nurses, and, you know, again, professional development, leadership, career planning for nurses. And then I ended up going into research. And so my research is really currently focused on interprofessional education and collaboration for healthcare teams, and looking at how do we create education, but also strategies to promote teamwork amongst health professionals who work across different sectors. So it's kind of carried through in terms of a theme, in terms of who I am. And then again, it ties into RN-FU, because we're all about supporting nurses for ongoing professional development and continuing education. So kind of fits in there with me and who I am.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And with RN-FU, like, do all nurses find out about you? Like, do they find out about you as a resource that they can go to, or like if I became a nurse tomorrow, would somebody tell me, you need to know about RN food? Yeah.
They would more likely tell you about RNAO, which is the Registered Nurses Association of Ontario, which is the professional association for RNs in Ontario. And then there's WeRPN, which is the same provincial professional association for registered practical nurses, or a union if you belong to a union. But RN FU, we talk about it for our students. We talk about RN FU in terms of applying. So if they want to look for funding as a student, this is a primary source of funding. So it's not something that people would hear maybe as much about as the other associations, but once they're looking for funding sources, then they would start to hear more about it.
Okay, that's great. So we need to let people know about you. You got to share.
Yeah. Well, I think we're
Sorry, Sue. There we go. Yeah, the freeze up. Yeah, I was saying earlier to Sue, I think so many people are using these various apps for communication and for doing videos, and that their things are freezing more than they used to. The internet is overwhelmed. Yeah. Sue, thank you so much for today. This was really informative, and it gave a lot. And also, it's really interesting to find out the areas where you guys are looking for support and directing people to how they can help. And also learning about those two women with that received the awards. I'm excited to pass along the information about that podcast at the bedside. Yeah, that sounds really good.
And there's we have other campaigns too as part of our INFU. We obviously look for larger donations too, and this year it is a challenge for us for fundraising, because our biggest fundraiser is normally a gala event, which we've been holding for almost 20 years. And this year it had to be canceled, which is normally the biggest source of funds for the year. So we're, contemplating how what we'll be able to give out next year because the cancellation of that event. So we're trying to think of new ideas too, in terms of other events that we might do to promote fundraising for our INFU. So good. Strategizing on that.
Yeah, well, actually, I'll take note of that and see if I can connect you with some people I know who are doing virtual events because they had to cancel their other ones, and maybe you can ask them how they're managing that in terms of fundraising, and how they're doing it, because people for sure, they still want to support you, obviously. Do a lot of good. I'm just checking. I got more comments here. Great. Lynn Gale says, fantastic work, Monica and Sue. Do you know Lynn Gale? Sue, does that mean something? That is your friend. I think so too. Yeah. And then Sarah Turl, she was my guest last week. She said, what a great resource for nurses. And Ewa Tink says, looking forward to re-watching. She's got to get her little one to bed for a nap, so she's gonna turn it later. Yeah. Oh, this has been great. So I'm going to say goodbye to you now and hello to you again in about 5 minutes. I will go on to Instagram Live.
Okay.
And call for you.
Thank you.
But
thanks so much, Monica.
Oh, it was great. I really appreciate your time, Sue.
Great.
Take care.
Thank you. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. That was really great talking to Sue and RNFU. If you haven't heard of them, I'm going to leave the information in the comments section here so that you can hop on their website and get to know a lot about them. And stay tuned later this week, because I will be helping them out with the launch of their 2020 bracelets to help raise money for nursing scholarships in Ontario. What a great cause. We need more of these wonderful women who are taking such very good care of our most vulnerable. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we will see you on our Instagram after party. Bye.